We will use other currencies. The dollar, at that point, for all practical purposes, the nail was driven into the coffin of the dollar 2 months ago, and the average person didn't know it. Now watch the other two times, and you will see the progression. And toward the end of 2012, the elite have it all planned. Iran and India, as you know, the United States of America placed sanctions on Iran. Then the European Union placed sanctions on Iran and said you cannot buy any Iranian oil as of June the 1st. Then the United Nations came along. Do you realize that when we placed sanctions on Iran, the United States of America, that we basically said you cannot use the petrodollar for the sale of your oil anymore? Yet Iran is the third largest supplier of oil in the world. Number one is Russia. Number two is Saudi Arabia. Number three is Iran. Do you realize what this does to Iran? Oh, India stepped up and said, Iran, no problem. You can't use the petrodollar anymore. But we will buy that million barrels of oil that you're selling to the European Union every day. We will be more than happy to buy it. Our economy is growing. We need it. And, folks, please, you've got to catch this. And we will pay you in gold. Oh, my goodness.
All right, we'll get to that when we come back. We got a break. Lindsey Williams is our guest, and he has another DVD out with this economist that he's talking about, and we'll also give you the number and website for that and give you the name of it. Also, I promised to get Lindsey on today and take some calls. Questions for Lindsey Williams, unscreened, bring them in, 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231.
Folks,
Okay, Lindsey, I want to go to some calls, and in the next segment, people need to have their pens and paper ready, like you said, because I'm going to give them the name of the new documentary you've put together, and it has all this laid out in it and more. But just briefly, because I want to go right to calls, what is your elitist friend telling you about precious metals and the type of currencies that are going to be used in the future?
He said you must get into a certain type of currency immediately. Alex, I also need to go back to the American dollar for a moment, and also, please, folks, the Keystone Pipeline is so much more important than the average person knows. I've got so much to say today, I'll try to get it all in. You must immediately get into the proper type of currency. I hope you're hearing this. Now, there is going to be a financial collapse. I'll tell you when it's going to be, and I'll tell you exactly how you can know when it's going to be. But there were people, many people made great fortunes in 1929. Not everybody stood in a soup line in 1933. And the people who prepared in advance knew that the great financial collapse of 1929, the Depression, was going to take place. They had no problems whatsoever surviving and made great fortunes in that period of time. You can also. And you'll remember that before Mr. Fromm died, we had that conversation. I related it. It's in the archives of your programs, Alex, that they said to me, the currency of the elite is gold and silver. Now, let me clarify. I do not sell gold and silver. Alex can tell you where to get it. You couldn't buy an ounce from me if you tried. I'm only telling you what they've told me in order to try to save you much heartache. He said to me, the currency of the elite is gold and silver. If you had listened to my elitist friend 3 years ago when I first told that on the Alex Jones show, your money right now would be worth 3 times what it was at the time that my elitist friend said it to me. Instead, many of you invested in every other thing imaginable, and now you've lost it, whether it be the stock market, the 401ks, the IRA, the dinars, I don't care what it is. You listen to the elite this time, please. You need to invest in, you ready? Please jot this down. You have those pencils and paper ready. Please invest in currency, gold and silver, minted by the United States Mint. Please hear this. You cannot go and invest in foreign coins. You need to invest in gold and silver minted by the United States Mint. Why? The state of Utah just passed a law the other day, and it's actually on the books now. 3 states, I understand, have done this, saying that gold and silver minted by the United States Mint, legal tender, must be accepted at the grocery store, the hardware store, and the drug store.
Yeah, a bunch of states are doing that, and I know they say stuff pre-1933 that's U.S. is non-confiscatable, but I mean, if they pass a law like that again, I'm not turning in a little bit of gold and silver I've got. I mean, they're a bunch of crooks. I know my great-granddaddy, actually my great-grandfather, my grandfather's father owned a car dealership in Dallas, was the first Chevy dealership up there. He didn't turn his gold in. He laughed at all the people that did. But I mean, your elitist friend is actually implying they're going to confiscate gold?
He did not say that. He said just in case. Now, keep in mind, the elite don't always get what they want. In fact, Mr. Obama just double-crossed the elite the other day when he canceled out.
Yeah, briefly, tell folks about the Keystone.
Well, first of all, get into pre-1933 gold and get into silver of any date. According to federal law, they cannot confiscate 1 ounce gold, which you call silver dollars, minted by the United States Mint of any date, 2012, 2011, all the way back on silver. But gold, anything prior to pre-1933 cannot be confiscated. Get into it. You need to get into the currency immediately that the elite have. They bought it by the ton. Secondly, Keystone Pipeline. This was so significant you can't imagine. Now think. Come on, get your thinking cap on a moment. Mr. Obama said, I am going to announce on a certain date as to what the United States of America will do in relation to the Keystone Pipeline. He did not announce it that day. This is more significant than you can imagine. Please watch it. And then 2 weeks later, he announced what he was going to do about the Keystone Pipeline, and he said it's not to the advantage of Americans to do it. Oh, what a flowery speech he gave. Why did he say this? I went to my elitist friend. I was amazed. I mean, he was livid. You talking about mad? I've never heard him so mad in my life. Now, this man's in his 70s. He's the one that gives me information so much after Mr. Prom died. And he said, I'm going to give you his exact words. I said, why did he cancel out on the Keystone Pipeline? I'm going to give you his exact words. He said, and I hope you'll write them down, he is a Muslim. Oh, my goodness. That said more than you can imagine. I said, what do you mean he's a Muslim? Mr. Obama double-crossed the elite. They are livid at him right now. They may not allow him to get reelected. He canceled out on the Keystone Pipeline in favor of his Muslim Brotherhood brethren. You saw him. You saw the pictures. He went to Saudi Arabia.
So that's what the former oil company head is telling you. All right, we're going to come right back and go to calls.
We're on the march. The empire's on the...
Doug listening on channel 166 XM. Tony, I guess, listening on the internet in Costa Rica. Alan, Tim, Marty. We'll get to at least those 5 calls. And then I'm going to air part of the Sheriff Arpaio interview. We've got his investigator. We got hours of this stuff. But that's coming up, too, at the very end of the transmission. We'll have more on the Nightly News tonight and more tomorrow. There's just so much here. This is all crazy. David Icke, who got lost in transit to... Hawaii, he is on tonight for an extended interview, Nightly News, always informative. Going back just briefly here, Lindsey has put together with this latest information a new DVD presentation, film/talk with the gentleman he was talking about. Very powerful info, Secrets of the Elite. prophecyclub.com or 888-799-6111, 888-799-6111 if you want to see it all congruently put together without me interrupting in the ads and the rest of it. Let's go ahead here, Lindsey, and go to some phone calls, and then we'll get your brief comment on the Arpaio thing before we go to that, because I know you got the inside baseball, as usual. Let's go ahead and talk to Doug in California. No. Yeah, let's go to Doug first, listening on channel 166 XM, and then Tommy. Go ahead.
Hey, hi, Alex. Nice talking to you again here from Santa Cruz. I called you July 5th about the weaponization of water. I'm really glad you have an old-school person like your guest on there, because he remembers in 1981 when Bank of America was paying 22% interest. And anyway, what I'd like his reaction to is what's been going on with the NDAA. I'm actually running for a political office here, and I've incorporated your material that I've learned on your program to ask that our local law enforcement here proactively look at this and say they're not going to enforce this unconstitutional law and nullity.
Well, there are a bunch of states moving to block it. Virginia's passed a law saying police don't put bags over citizens' heads and help the feds take them away, and if you see the feds doing it, arrest them. him. So there's like 8 states now passing laws or that have passed them. Great questions. Thank you for the call. Lindsey Williams, NDAA, martial law provisions, executive orders, power grabs. Did your former oil company head exec give you any intel on that?
Mr. Fromm did before he ever passed away. In fact, I'll never forget the day that the health care bill was supposed to have been put before Congress, and prior to that, he knew everything that was in it. And he said to me one day when we were talking about it, I said, I understand there's going to be a health care provision before Congress. He said, Chaplain, that is not a health care bill. I said, Ken, what are you talking about? He said, that is not a health care bill. He said, that is total control. He said that the Patriot Act, along with the health care bill, brings about total control to the American people. It was hatched up by them. No congressman ever read it. The president himself did not read it before he signed it. And it was put before Congress by the elite. And the story of the inside workings of how they got votes on that, you are going to be dumbfounded when you hear the person who appeared with me on this DVD in Secrets of the Elite tell the story.
Wow. Yeah, it is a takeover of the infrastructure. Thank you so much, caller there from Santa Cruz. We got 2 affiliates in Santa Cruz. You can listen to us like that as well. Let's talk to Tommy in Costa Rica. You're on the air. Thank you for holding.
Hello, Alex. Lindsey, how you doing?
Good. Hi, Tommy.
Good. Listen, Lindsey, put your thinking cap on. About 1974, you walked into a bar with Mr. Fromm and Mr. L in Anchorage, Alaska, the Anchorage International Inn, where I was a bartender part-time while in the service. I said hello to you, and Mr. Fromm, I think, introduced you as the teetotaler. But beyond that, I had met Ken, or talked to Ken a couple times after that incident. And Ken drew me aside one time and told me, he knew I was in the service, and he said, never mind the standing armies, beware of the bankers. And this stuck in my mind for the longest time. I had people from...
Ooh, that's a good quote. I mean, we've got the Rothschild quote about, I don't care who runs the government as long as I control the money. Don't worry about standing armies, it's the bankers. Wow, go ahead.
Exactly. I never forgot that. And Alex, I was going to call you earlier on this because of Lindsey. I thought I'd call you today. It's also some people came in. I thought they were working on the pipeline. This relates to Fletcher about what are you guys doing? I said, what are you guys doing up here? Working on the pipeline? No, we're in Galkina. We're working on a way to control the weather. And this is back in 1974.
Well, that's where they do it, up there in Alaska. Do you remember walking into that bar with Mr. L and Mr. Fromm there, Lindsey?
I am so glad that you called from Costa Rica. I want to thank you. You know, for so many years, people said, Lindsey Williams is nothing in the world but just a phony. He really didn't know all these people. And now, of course, when Mr. Fromm passed away, now even Alex and others know. I'm glad that you did not mention the name of the second gentleman. He's still alive. He's in his 70s. You and I know who he is. This gentleman is exactly right. I remember walking into the bar. You know, ministers can walk into bars. They just don't have to drink the alcohol. I walked in that day, and we had a great time. And I remember it well. Thank you for adding credibility to the fact that I've been telling the truth all these years.
Absolutely. And I met you at the Captain Cook Athletic Club. Briefly, shook your hand. I was one of the muscle idiots down there in the basement. But that's another long story. Anyway, my question, Alex and Lindsey, I listened to your show on Sunday, and we're talking about Obama being elected and how he got his money, and we're talking about the Muslim Brotherhood. Now, how did the elite let that get by them? Do you follow what I'm telling you? They have such control.
Well, but you heard Fletcher. There's all this constant backstabbing going on.
Yeah, that's true. I know that, Alex. But I'm just saying, how did the elite... I mean, they've elected every president since Kennedy.
Yeah, they were going to double-cross the Arabs, and that's what they were going to do, was break that deal. And it sounds like Obama is not doing that. I appreciate your call. It's a great question. Lindsey, that's a good question.
Okay, first of all, there was Egypt. And after Mubarak was deposed in Egypt, I went to my elitist friend, whom this gentleman is referring to right here on the air, and I said, what in the world is going on? He told me everything that the elite were going to do for the next few years how that they would go right into Libya. Gaddafi set them back. Oh, please, listen to the dates here. Gaddafi set the elite back 2 to 3 months because he wouldn't give in as quick as they thought he was going to. Then they came around to Syria right now, and Assad